You have lost some by-elections as the NRM this time round. What could have come up? What could explain?
Actually, that...
Are you still a strong party like the last time we talked? What has not gone right?
We are extremely strong. We are strong and very democratic, internally and externally. Why? If we were not losing any by-election, people would have blamed us of being very forceful, bribing people, doing all these sorts we do. And if we were doing that, none of this opposition would win us in any of these by-election or any of this constituency. But because we are democratic, we accept losses where we have been defeated, and we also allow others to respect that we have won them in many other places. And that is democracy. It is one of our key pillars of the party. Of the four, we have Pan-Africanism, patriotism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. Democracy is a give and take. When you're defeated, you accept. You come down and work internally and ask yourself why you are defeated as a party. But you don't cheat the person who has defeated you. For example, that is the reason why NRM went to the bush to fight in defense of the Democratic Party, because UPC had rigged the national election in 1980 and then defeated and
took the victory of the DP.
Of the Democratic Party. And that was why our founding fathers went to the bush to fight for the rights of the Democratic Party members who were cheated by UPC. So we cannot repeat that history.
They say they are good at rigging. They bribe voters. People even have some videos, I will not talk about them here. They bribe voters. They are violent. They bring police and they confuse elections at by-elections. Where they lose, it is where even the rigging machinery fails.
They say elections are free and fair, not excellent and perfect. So those challenges of making it free and fair are some of the things you describe.
So your counterparts in politics said that where you lose, it is where...
I just want to give you one example. We were in Dokolo recently. Yes. Even Oyam, where I was, I've been in all these by-elections. In Oyam in particular, even in Dokolo, Oyam, we were blamed that we did not bring a good candidate, which to some extent was right, because we didn't have enough time to conduct primaries to come up with a flag bearer, because the time was very short. So we did some bit of negotiations and agreeing among members to allow one person to contest, which unfortunately turned out to be somebody who was not acceptable by many people. And that could be the main reason why we lost in Oyam, because of picking a flag bearer who was not up to the task. In Dokolo, we had a good flag bearer, but I think in Dokolo the challenge was that the late Honorable Cecilia Ogwal left a very big mark, and she was a strong leader in UPC for a long time. Yes. She only crossed to FDC just to win election, but her as an individual was a very strong pillar. And that was why even her daughter lost the election, because
the seat was so much attached to UPC.
To UPC. The seat was attached to UPC. So really, we understand this terrain, we understand some of these things. You see, every election has a different challenge, you cannot have a one design to fit all elections. Every election has different unique issues that you have to pick and work on. So yes, this is a learning process that we have, and it's an experience that we go through. And indeed, it is not to say NRM is weak. It is not. The strength of NRM is based on how many candidates do we sponsor nationally in any election. Believe me if government had accepted the election of LC1 chairman in the past, we would have candidates in all the villages of Uganda. Ask of these political parties, how many can sponsor LC1 elections for candidates? None. They might have 4 or 2, 3 villages where they have people, 4, 5, but not 74,000 villages where they would have candidates. We have them. LC2s, we have about 10,000 parishes. We sponsor elections in all of them. LC3 is about 2,400 and something sub-counties. We sponsor all the elections of LC3s. So our structure is in the way that we sponsor candidates in all elective positions. None of these political parties, in the front of this camera that I'm seeing, none of these political parties can match NRM in sponsoring candidates all over the country.
You see, that question is thrown at them so many times, and they say, but the NRM is taking advantage of being in state power.
No, not state. It's organization. Organization and ability to explain yourself. Why are we a party? Why did we form ourselves in a political party? Why are you a political party? What do you stand for? What are your values? These are the things that makes NRM strong. We preach unity. We preach things that unite Ugandans. We don't focus at petty narrow issues.
You never take advantage of being in state power.
We don't. But if it benefits us, why not? But we don't use it. But now that if they want us to use, we shall be using it. But we don't use it. To the extent that we even share a governance platform with the members of opposition. We would have amended the constitution and we would have amended the Local Government Act to say, winner takes it all. When we win, we don't want to work with anybody in other political party. But now we say, no, let them come and share with us. They are with us. They are in cabinet, they are in local government, they are in civil service. We share with them. They see and they are refusing to learn. That is where the problem is. You see how NRM is doing its thing, you are part of it, but you are refusing to learn. So when we...
The Electoral Commission is in preparations that take us towards 2026. Anyway, will you participate as the NRM?
Of course. If we don't participate, then there will be no election. we are there.
We may be here when this time round, the NRM may say, we have had enough.
Then we would have done a disservice to this country. Okay.
So how ready are you as a party, and what kind of preparations are on ground?
We prepare in two levels. One, that in the last election, we had a manifesto that we gave to Ugandans. And the Ugandans voted us to government based on our manifesto. Now, we are midterm, we are doing evaluation of this manifesto to see the promises that we have made to Ugandans, how we have been able to fulfill them, how government has performed, where we have gone wrong, where we have not fulfilled properly. So we are now analyzing. It's a midterm review of our manifesto. And it's going to help us to come with another manifesto for 2026, 2031. So yes, we are on point, that we are moving very systematically to make sure that we are accountable to the people who gave us votes in the past. Of course, we also need to know that we've had challenges in this Kisanja, that at the beginning we used to have, we were attacked by Ebola, if you remember. Yes. We were attacked by coronavirus. We had a flooding in parts of the country. We had a locusts in Karamoja and other parts of the country. So those disasters affected part of our budgets that were allocated to particular projects that we were supposed to do. So it also affected some of these programs that we had lined up to perform. And so these are some of the things that we are trying to see how best we can catch up and explain. And we know when we explain to the people, they would understand, because they are part of this and they were involved in.
You are coming in with a new manifesto 2026.
Exactly.
How much have you scored in as far as the one we are handling right now is concerned? 2.5 years down the road.
Now we are at a point of about 65 to 66%.
Really? What are the indicators?
One, we promised, we divide it into two areas: the hardware issues and the software issues. We had about 12 thematical areas in the manifesto, which was speaking about the economy, speaking about infrastructure development, speaking about rural transformation, speaking about peace and security, justice, law and order. We were speaking about agriculture, all those sectors. And so if you measure them one by one, and just to round them up because of time, we can start off infrastructure development. Roads, for example. At the moment, you can drive from one corner of Uganda to another on tarmac road. Yes, somebody can ask about the roads in Kampala, the urban areas, which is okay. But these roads in Kampala were designed and made to carry a specific load and a specific population. But over the years, we have registered quite a number of rural-urban migration. The population of Kampala has increased. The population of Wakiso has increased. It is radiating outwards. It is now going beyond Kampala, Wakiso. It's moving to Mukono. It's moving to Mpiji. It's moving to Luero. This side is getting to Jinja.
In a metropolitan sense.
It's expanding. Now, this has put a lot of pressure on the resources that we send to the local government and the city authority. Because initially, the resource envelope could not match the demands and the weight of population in this area. And by the way, also you need to know that close to 60% of the GDP of this country is produced from this central zone of the country. So there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of demand, and then with the resource envelope, which is limited, is where we see things the way it is. But we are aware of that. One good thing is for the government and the party to be aware of this and to plan how to come out of it. And that is what now we are going to plan in our next manifesto, having known the challenges that are on the ground. Now, two, when you look at the areas of social services, education, health, water, and sanitation, and all that, I'm sure all urban centers, the coverage for clean water is almost above 80%.
If we talk of urban centers,
Yes,
what kind of a percentage is that of Uganda?
We look at urban and rural, because if you look at, of course, Uganda can talk about 75%. Ugandans are drinking clean water. If you go to the villages, bowls are everywhere. All the sub-counties have water. So people are drinking clean water. Now we need to move from water for consumption to water for production. And that is what we are now going to move into our next manifesto, that we need irrigation plans in areas because of the changes in weather, and the weather patterns are not predictable. We now need to develop irrigation schemes to allow farmers to irrigate their crops and their gardens. Now these are new. When I tell you that things do change, population change, demands do change, information change, it brings in new demand for planning. And this new demands is what now we're saying. Now, no, the weather pattern has changed. Globalization is causing a lot of global warming. Therefore, we are no longer predicting rainfalls. The meteorological center, when they are saying it's going to rain, it will shine. When it's going to shine, it will rain. So there is a lot of uncertainty with the weather. So we need to plan to mitigate that shock. And so these are some of the planning that comes along the way when you don't...
I'm picking interest in two things. Why do you think we fail to plan in as far as those geographical problems are concerned? It has become an annual expectation that we shall have mudslides either in the Rwenzori areas or in the eastern. Where do you think the problem comes in?
We plan...
These people are under your supervision as politicians before they go to government. Where do we have the gap?
We plan, but we plan small, because we don't anticipate the magnitude of the disaster that comes. For example, in the last budget, we had budgeted for disasters. And the budget for disaster may not be having the figure now. There was some money which was put for disasters, addressing mudslides, landslides, flooding, and starvation in areas where there is no food, for relief food supply. And then we have refugee issues. So those were planned for. But believe me, for example, what is now happening with the El Nino, with the rain that has come, quite a number of bridges have collapsed in Uganda. Yes. Now, these were not something we planned for. Almost on every highway. So we had to divert money from the planned roads in some of these roads to work on these bridges. The whole northern Uganda is being cut off because of Karuma Bridge. It wasn't planned for, but now that is an emergency. And then there are some of these bridges that were being washed away by this El Nino. So these are things you don't plan for disaster. When they come, you relocate money from a particular planned activity to address the emergency that has occurred. So that is part of the challenges that we have. But I'm sure in the next budget, there is going to be some substantive amount of money that is being put aside to handle this disaster and that emergency.